That was the introduction to an aria from La Clemenza di Tito by Gluck. And if we'd stayed with it, we'd have heard the voice of Gramophone's outgoing Artist of the Year, the mezzo Joyce Di Donato. And her Virgin Classics disc, Diva Divo, is one of the three contenders in the Recital category for the 2011 Gramophone Classical Music Awards, presented this year in association with Steinway & Sons. I'm James Jolly, and I'm joined by Gramophone's editor, James Invern, to talk about these three recordings. Now, what's really stunning this year is that here we have three singers absolutely in their prime. Let's start with the recital of French arias on Naïve by the Canadian contralto Marie-Nicole Lemieux, Ne me refuse pas. Now, these aren't the usual suspects, are they?
No, absolutely not. One has to an extent, do something imaginative if you're going to do a recital disc, because there are hundreds and hundreds of recital discs with the arias from Carmen and Delilah, although there is actually one Delilah on here, having said that, and so on. So you have to find some original idea, some niche. And Marie-Nicole Lemieux here has come up with some pieces, I think one or two no one will have heard. There's Wormser, for instance, from Clytemnestra, and if you've heard that, then you should write in and win a prize, except there isn't one, it's just for fun. It's a real exploration, this disc, and it's also an exploration of a kind of voice that you really don't hear very much these days.
It's a very, very rich, true contralto, isn't it?
It is, but without the epithet you usually get for a contralto, which is earthy. I don't know why you almost never read the word contralto without the word earthy preceding it. In this case, it is, as you say, very rich, very multicoloured, but it doesn't bump along the ground for 1 minute. It seems to take flight, albeit at a certain low level, you might say, but it's really something special.
And and there's a lot of personality here. You really sort of sense the person behind the voice.
You do. Actually, she came to MEDEM, the Music Industry Conference at Cannes, a couple of years ago, and she did a performance, actually a presentation for the Naïve label. And there in the flesh, you got bags of personality coming over, and it was wonderful to hear in this recording that you get exactly the same impression of this very charismatic person, and she's able to transmit that through the microphones, and that perhaps is overwhelmingly the great secret of vocal recitals.
Now, the second disc in the recital category is Diva Divo from Virgin Classics from Joyce Di Donato. It claims quite rightly to be a collection of male and female roles from favourite operas, but actually it's rather more clever than that, because it gathers together the same characters from different operas. So, for example, you get Massenet's Cherubin and Mozart's Cherubino, or Berlioz's Romeo and Bellini's, and so on. I must say, I thought this was a fantastic record.
Well, she's a fantastic artist, which is why, of course, she currently has the crown of Artist of the Year for Gramophone. It's a very, very alive recording, alive to every nuance, to every cadence. You live these moments, these crucial moments of these roles with her every step of the way. Not sure that it always quite gets round that hoary old question, how do you sustain for an entire disc? How much variety of expression can you get into one voice, really? But she does get round it to a great extent by, as you say, very imaginative programming. It's a wonderful choice of pieces, with only one slight oddity towards the end, where you suddenly get 3.5 minutes of Strauss, which is fantastic.
It is fantastic,
wonderful.
But it does sort of stick out slightly like a sore thumb, because the rest of the programme's all been in French and Italian, very much in a kind of continuum of style. And then all of a sudden you get this incredibly dramatic 3 minutes, as you say, in German. And it's wonderful, but kind of odd as well.
Yes, it does feel a little bit like there was some time left at the end of the session. And she said, also, well, I really want to sing this.
Absolutely. And also the Massenet Cherubin stuck on at the front as a little sort of barely 2-minute piece. And then you go back to Mozart and work chronologically through.
Yes, although that works, I suppose, as a little amuse-bouche. It's rather nice.
Yes, and I have to say, of the various composers, I loved the Gluck and Mozart part of this recital. And then having thought, well, that's going to be my favourite bit, she gets on to Rossini and you think, actually, she's so wonderful at this too.
Yes, but for me, the Vitellia in Clemenza is just stunning. It's the force of her personality and the force of the character, more to the point, sweeps all before it, really demands to be heard.
Yeah, I really hope we can hear her in some serious Mozart roles.
Yes, complete recordings, please.
Now, if that collection from Joyce DiDonato finds the role of the orchestra more and more dominant as we progress from the 18th to the 20th century, our last disc finds it almost centre stage. This is a collection of Verismo arias from Jonas Kaufmann, and it's not every day that you hear a German tenor tackling this kind of fare.
No, indeed not. But then again, Jonas Kaufmann is no ordinary German tenor and no ordinary tenor. It's not for nothing that he's causing huge excitement around the world. Every great Italian tenor worth his salt loves to tackle the Verismo arias, and Kaufmann is no different. And there's different ways of tackling it. The most favoured way is, of course, to just plant your feet on the stage, centre stage, and wallop the notes out as far as you can. And to be fair, some of the roles are about just that. The improviso in Andrea Chenier is this guy standing in the middle of a party and saying, "Listen to me." But Kaufmann does much more than just the "listen to me" route one.
It's not subtle repertoire.
It's not subtle repertoire, no. It is interesting because Kaufmann, an artist for whom I have a huge amount of admiration, has been hailed as the next great, in fact the latest great, because he's already great, Italian tenor. It isn't actually a typical Italian voice. It works incredibly idiomatically in the German repertoire. He is German, so you would expect that. It works very well from Mozart all the way to Wagner and no doubt a more dramatic repertoire. In Italian repertoire, he makes it work for him, I would say. He's got wonderful control of this hefty and yet very beautiful instrument. It's a slightly blunt timbre for this repertoire, but as I say, he's a fabulous artist and he makes it work for him. I would just say, though, that he is such a great artist that I think he could be even slightly bolder on some of the arias. His La Lesiana aria, for instance, which is a great old favourite, an old warhorse, he does this incredible thing with in the beginning. He starts it in this half voice. It's almost internalised, as if he's murmuring to himself. And in this repertoire, that's no mean feat. But of course, that's what you can do with these arias in the studio, and in fact it gives the whole idea a raison d'etre, a reason for doing it in the studio, and I'd love to have heard more of that monologue-y feel to some of these. But fans of Kaufmann, and there are many, and I'm one of them, will love this disc.
And it's stunningly well accompanied by the Santa Cecilia Orchestra and Antonio Pappano.
Oh God, yes, they sing with him.
That was part of Cielo e Mar from Ponchielli's La Gioconda, sung by Jonas Kaufmann with Antonio Pappano conducting the orchestra of the Santa Cecilia Academy in Rome, and that comes from Kaufmann's Decca collection of Verismo arias. And that's one of the 3 discs vying for the Recital Award. Well, all will be revealed on October the 6th, when the 2011 Gramophone Classical Music Awards, in association with Steinway & Sons, will be presented. For more information, log on to gramophone.co.uk and subscribe to more of these awards podcasts at iTunes. Simply search for Gramophone Magazine. Thanks for listening, and my thanks to James Inverne.